So growing up in the 80s, like a lot of other people, I was obsessed with breakdancing. Therefore, I was obsessed with the movie Breakin, and Breakin 2, and Beat Street, and Crush Groove, and so on. I thought I was a breakdancer. I thought I was a good breakdancer. I was not. But of course, that didn't stop me. I remember my dad bringing home large pieces of cardboard from work so I could practice my breakdancing. Now, I never lost my love for breakdancing or for the movie Breakin. I introduced it to my son and he fell in love with it. He got a pet fish and named it Turbo. In 2019, he was lucky enough to meet Michael Chambers, who was extremely nice to him, took pictures with him, and showed him some breakdance moves. So today we're going to check out filming locations for the 1984 classic, Breakin. Now, I've got a few friends that are going to be joining me today. Kelly, Turbo, and Ozone are coming along for the ride to help me track down some of the spots. So let's go see what we can find. Right in front of me is where we get our first shot of everybody dancing and having a good time in front of the ocean down here at Venice Beach, California. Now, of course, this area would have looked a lot different at that time. There would have been a wall right here that everybody was standing in front of, and at the time, the Venice skate park was not here. Right here in front of me is where that wall would have been that we see Jean-Claude Van Damme standing in front of in his tight spandex, watching everybody dance. Right over here is where we see Kelly and Adam pull up, and for those of you that aren't from Southern California, just know that's how we do it. If you can't find parking, you can just pull your car right up onto the grass and leave it wherever you want. Now, Kelly pulls her car up, and I believe she parks it somewhere right around where this lamppost is. She might have been a little bit further up, but this building back here can clearly be seen in the background behind her. Now everybody's out here dancing, having a good time, and that's when Electro Rock shows up, along with some guy in little red underwear. After Turbo and Ozone walk away, we see them right over here in this area, talking with Kelly and Adam. Later in the movie, Kelly comes down to Venice to try and find Ozone, and she finds him sitting out here on these rocks. Now, of course, at the time, the tide was much lower and the rocks weren't out in the water. This building right over here can be seen way off in the distance behind Ozone when him and Kelly are talking. We see Turbo and Ozone coming down the alley right here, and you get a good shot of this building, and you can actually see where that roll-up door used to be in the wall, and it's since been patched up. Also notice that drain pipe right on the edge of the wall. They come down the alley and they turn into the parking spots right here and park at an angle right there. And then they head inside to Francos Studio. Now, at the time, this wall was not here. This has since been added, and of course the entire building was brick, just like what we see here. Notice those windows up there. You can see windows just like that in the movie inside the dance studio. We see Kelly come out of the studio and meet up with her friend Adam. They get in Kelly's car that would have been parked somewhere over here, and then they head off in this direction. Now, at the time, there was no gate here, and that building could clearly be seen. Now, one of the most iconic scenes in the entire movie takes place right here on this corner. This is where Turbo does the famous broom dance. And pretty much everything right here in this intersection looks exactly the same. That building across the street with the billboard on top, the utility pole, the lamp post. That street sign for Heliotrope used to be on the lamppost. And of course, the tattoo shop used to be a liquor store. But other than that, everything here pretty much looks just like it did in the movie. Right there is where Turbo had his boombox. And I can't believe the wall has the exact same white tile that you see in the movie. This is exactly the same. Also exactly the same is the sidewalk. The exact same tile type sidewalk that we see him dancing on. That means pretty much right here in this spot, this is the same cement that we see him doing the broom dance on. And this building across the street was a furniture store. An electro rock comes pulling up right here, and they end up parking their car right there and then walking across the street. Right here in front of these doors is where Electro Rock calls out Turbo and Ozone. Walking on sacred ground right now. Now an Indian restaurant. This is the spot that was used as the diner that Kelly works at. As you can see, the inside's been completely remodeled and doesn't really look anything like it does in the movie. That walk-up counter's been removed. But we get a shot looking out the front window that's really similar to this one. When Adam comes to visit Kelly, we get a shot out the front door and you can see that building right across the street, which is exactly the same. Now we see this building very briefly. It was used as the exteriors of the office of James, Kelly's manager. Now, like I said, we see the exteriors for just a few seconds, and I'm pretty sure the interiors were filmed on a soundstage. The Palace in Hollywood, now the Avalon, is where Kelly goes on her auditions. After her failed audition, Kelly comes out of the front right here. Of course, you can see the doors are a lot different. Her friend Adam is waiting right here against this wall. Notice the frames and the trim going around it is exactly the same as what you see in the movie. Now they walk right along the sidewalk right here, and this brickwork on the building is exactly the same, and you can see this staircase in the background behind them. Now what's not the same is this is no longer a parking lot next door. This had always been a parking lot, but a couple of years ago they built this apartment building. Kelly would have come out of the driveway somewhere right about here and thrown her blonde wig out of the car, and as they drive off, we get a shot really similar to this one. Across the street from MacArthur Park, in the early 1980s, this was Radiotron. Now, Radiotron was the youth center where teens would come for breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, and MCing, and ended up being the club used in the movie Breakin. Can you imagine how many amazing dance battles took place on this property? Not just in Breakin, but in real life. So much history right here on this corner. This is where Kelly's driving when she's on her way to Ozone and Turbo's place. Notice the top of this building right here. Later in the movie, when Kelly comes looking for Ozone, we see her driving down the street right here and pulling up right in front of the house. And when she's getting in and out of her car, you get clear shots of both of these houses across the street. The front porch of that house, where all the kids are hanging out, looks exactly the same. Right here in front of the garage is where Turbo's hanging out with all the kids, showing them how to dance. Pretty much right where that food cart is, that's where the cardboard was on the ground, and we see all the kids dancing. Right here is where Turbo and Kelly were standing. The house has been remodeled and looks a little bit different. And as Kelly pulls away, we see Turbo standing right here in front of the house. This is where the Debbie Reynolds dance studio used to be. In the movie, it was the Julie Kay dance studio, and this is where Kelly, Turbo, and Ozone come to practice for the big show. So much awesome dancing happened right here. Now, sadly, they just tore it down recently. I wonder if those statues that were in front of the building are somewhere here in this pile of rubble. This is where they're driving on their way to the audition, wearing their tuxedos. Now, this Superior Groceries used to be Thrifty Mart, and you can see the giant Thrifty Mart sign in the background behind them. Now, this location was really hard to find. The two ways we were able to lock it down was, one, that big Thrifty Mart sign, and also this motel sign in the background behind them for the Flamingo Motel can be seen for just a second in the background. The Shrine Auditorium was used for the interiors and exteriors of the big audition. We get a shot of the exteriors of the building really similar to this one. And if we look at some of these interior photos, it's easy to match up the stage and balcony. This is where the Tiffany Theater used to be, the location of Kelly Turbo and Ozone's big show at the end of the movie. The sign for the Tiffany Theater can be seen just above the marquee. Now that original sign for the Tiffany Theater that you see in the movie can now be found at the Valley Relics Museum in the San Fernando Valley. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video, but obviously we're just getting started.